Translational Sejahtera, anda sedang menonton rakaman khas agenda Awani di Persada Johor Bahru, dan hari ini kita membincangkan tentang kelebihan Iskandar, dan pendidikan adalah satu aspek penting. Izinkan saya untuk berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris. I would like now to welcome my very eminent guest for today, Professor Raj Jordan of Newcastle University Medicine in Malaysia. I believe this is the first UK university campus for medicine and medical sciences to be done overseas, and by the time this interview is on air, you would probably have been celebrating the first cohort of a student graduating from your campus here in Iskandar, Malaysia. So can you please describe to us what this achievement is for you?
Oh, well, for me personally, it is the end of a dream, really, that I've had for many years. For my university, it is a major landmark in its development, and hopefully for Malaysia, we're here to make a difference. You describe us as the first campus for medicine. You are correct. We are the first UK university to establish an international, wholly owned campus. It's not a partnership, it's not a twinning, it's Newcastle University overseas for medicine. And we work very hard. It's about the quality, and we have been approved by both the UK General Medical Council and the Malaysian Medical Council, which means that our program, which is identical to that in the UK, attracts full GMC registration.
I know this is a bit looking at it simplistically, but what kind of graduates would they be, this first batch, as compared to maybe, because Malaysia has never had this batch of graduate, wholly homegrown in Malaysia, but with UK culture and you know, system of the Newcastle University.
And one point, you're right, but you're also wrong. I mean, Newcastle University Medical School, which was established in 1834, has a long history with Malaysia, and we've had many Malaysian students who've come to the UK, qualified in medicine, and returned to Malaysia. So the difference is not as great as you may expect. There are obviously differences, and of course one of our challenges is to take a group of students who will get their medical education wholly here in Malaysia, but with, how shall I put it, that UK dimension to it, who will perhaps never have been to the UK. So we try to give all our students at least a short experience by having up to 4 months at our campus in the UK. So maybe they experience snow for the first time and things like that, but they also get a flavour. We've also tried to bring a flavour of the UK, Newcastle, to Malaysia. So today about 30% of my staff, my faculty, are seconded from the medical school in the UK. So they are taught by an international faculty, local Malaysian staff, UK staff, and indeed other staff recruited internationally. So you try to give them that global environment. And within our campus we see it as what we call Newcastle in the tropics, and we try to keep that same ethos that we have there. So there are ways around that. There are many similarities. Disease profiles are more similar than you would think. The delivery of healthcare, the outcomes required of the Malaysian undergraduate medical program are very similar to the UK. Maybe in some ways we're a little more advanced, but not a lot. There's some very high quality medical schools here in Malaysia. So we're not here to teach people how to do it. We're here to work in partnership with people and to share experiences. We have as much to learn from our colleagues in Malaysia as they have to learn from us. So I think one of the big differences I see is we are very student-centric. The student is at the centre of everything we do. And I've had the benefit, of course, of starting small. We're here for the long term. It's a long-term investment by the university. Our academic development plan was, has a sort of catchphrase, modest but sustainable growth over time. So because my university is essentially a not-for-profit organisation, and we make a long-term investment, then you know, we could start off, the first group of students was only 20. Then we went to 40, then we went to 60, Now, incrementally, we've gone up, so our 6th intake next September will be for about 140. So not only have we grown the student population in a small way, we've also had to grow the staff. And one thing, although we recruit widely in our staff are all trained by us to deliver the Newcastle program, because the programs are identical. The degree they get is the same as if they were studying in the UK. The examinations are set in the UK. They are marked along with everybody else. And we're very proud of what we've achieved here. You mentioned the first group of 20. I and my Chief Operating Officer, Liz Smith, interviewed every single one of those students. They are ours. It's a very personal thing. We're very emotionally attached to this first group.
I was just getting into that. Thank you for bringing it up. Since you interview them, it's very student-centric kind of system. So you probably know each and every one of them by name and by heart. So how do you find them? Because maybe when you were in Newcastle in the UK, you only had 7% allowance from the government to take in foreign students, but now your entire number of students will be from here.
There are differences. I think the Malaysian secondary education system is quite a structured experience. It's pressured, more so than in the UK. The students are more determined to succeed. They have a better work ethic. They are, at the early stages, more reserved. I think it's partly because there is a more of a hierarchical structure to most of Malaysian society. So it's been great to see them open up and prepared to answer back, to query, to question, to interact. So they come in very shy. How would I say it? I don't mean subservient, but
reserved.
Or very reserved, and it takes them a long time to realise that our campus works on first name terms. We know their given names and they know ours, and that's how it works. The students themselves coined the phrase the New Med family, and that is staff and students. And of course, being in Iskandar is a great challenge to us, but it's a great exciting time as well. It's interesting. If you compare my university in the UK, very old campus in a city centre, one of the largest cities in the UK with all it has to offer, and then you sort of come to Nusa Jaya, and we started off as the flagship. There was us. There was a fence around us, and that was it, and there was nothing else there. So we saw that as a challenge, but I think it has generated a corps d'esprit, if you like. We've made our own, our own entertainment, our own activities. I'm very proud of my students' engagement with the community, with their voluntary work, their work with the Public Health Service, their work with the disabled and handicapped children. They have done that themselves. And it's made a very close-knit family. And so that was great. Because I thought perhaps providing the whole of the student experience, more than just their education, but that development of life that you get through higher education would be something we'd have difficulty in emulating here. It's different, but nevertheless, the young people are very similar.
Great. I have to go for the first break, but once we are back, that's the part I want to look into. I guess the reputation and the proof is in the graduates of the long history, 170 over years of Newcastle University, but I want to look at that part of the graduates. How do they communicate? How can they give back to society? How do they interact back with society? So maybe you have seen it firsthand, how they have bloomed also from that respect, not just looking at the academic side. We'll discuss that with Newcastle University Medicine in Malaysia after this break. You are still watching a special recording of Agenda Awani at Persada Johor, and I'm still here with the very important man in Iskandar, Malaysia, because Iskandar is not just about the real estate and the buildings that are there, but the content inside, the human side, and that's what I'm talking about with Professor Jordan. And the first batch, I've already graduated, but there's this issue that is being debated in Malaysia right now, because we keep producing a lot of graduates, but the quality of the graduates, especially from the non-academic side, are they a good human being in terms of feeling empathy for the other person? Can they communicate well? Do they even know current issues and be relevant to the society where they'll be working in, for example? But you are very close to the first batch, the first cohort. So how do you see them from this side?
You ask what appears to be a simple question with many different dimensions to it. If I take one or two of them. Firstly, you talk about the numbers of doctors and the quality of doctors. So can we just sort of set the record straight? Medical education is a lifelong continuum. Undergraduate education is the first step.
Yes.
It's followed then by training through a house officer and your role as a junior doctor, then specialization. Yeah. So it's a long period. Mm-hmm. Here in Malaysia, we aspire to reach a patient-to-doctor ratio of about 400 to 1. Okay. So you increase the number of undergraduates, the obvious place to start. Okay. The problem is you will then get a bottleneck when they graduate.
Yes.
And that's when they become house officers, because you need specialists to train them, but you haven't yet produced enough specialists to do that. So you need to manage that process carefully. Then there is the quality dimension. There is a saying that I quite like, and that is, if we do what we did, we'll get what we've got.
Okay.
Now, if we don't like what we've got to do it differently.
Yes.
So I think it's not just about the knowledge and understanding that the students gain at medical school, or their clinical competence, the skills that they need. It is about their communication, and it's about their professionalism. Worldwide, the medical profession has lost something over the years. It has lost a good deal of the trust of people. We live in an information-rich world. We all have access to the internet. We look it up ourselves, and if our doctor doesn't know it, we think less of them. Mm-hmm. The media is worldwide and global. Medical accidents in one part of the world are well known in the other the next day. So people don't have that trust. In my opinion, that's because doctors have not earned it. One has to say about my profession that there are some people who go in for the wrong motives. Okay. I think money, position, status in life are sometimes important motivators. They're good motivators if used properly, but they can also be bad. I think the problem that's happened, not just here in Malaysia, but across the world, is there's a lot of people around who have expanded undergraduate education too fast. And I don't just mean because we want numbers, is you don't have sufficient high quality medical educators. So creating a medical school, particularly one that is for profit, you will have less than the best teachers. So that's why our strategy is for this slow, modest growth, making sure the staff are of the highest caliber. Mm-hmm. You know, you can have the greatest facilities and buildings, mm-hmm. but good medical education, good education is about the people there, the community that you develop. And they've got to be the right people, the right students, mm-hmm. and the right people. And they must have a shared ideal. And that is that you want to make a difference. And sometimes we get medical students who want to change the world, and that mm-hmm. is something they have to have moderated. But we want people who want to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And we hope that we then give them the environment and quality of education that allows them to do things differently. Mm-hmm. And if you get it right in undergraduate education, set that pattern for life, I would never claim 100%, but I think the majority of our graduates are instilled with that sense of professionalism. And eventually, the main gain is to society, better healthcare. Mm-hmm. And it's not about, you know, you have to bring in the UK or the USA or Australia to get quality. You don't. There's very high quality here. But you have to focus it, you have to ensure that it's reaching the right outcomes and it's doing things a little differently to before.
You are still watching a very special recording of Agenda Awani at Persada Johor. We like to see faces of Iskandar. I'm a Malaysian, but I am very envious of even foreigners who could be in Iskandar and be the face of Iskandar. I'm talking to one right now, Professor Jordan, and I think you have contributed immensely to Iskandar and Malaysia as a whole. But I would like to tap into your expertise, wearing your researcher side hat. And how do you look at that? Because maybe sometimes the developing nations look so much at the problems now. We want to increase the ratio of people or patients to doctor, so produce doctors and medical graduates. But what about the long-term side, which you alluded to? It's a lifelong learning also for a lot of medical students. The research side must be there. How do we find new knowledge, for example, if we don't do that? So how do you see that and the role of NUMED?
Again, you have a great knack of asking what appear to be very simple questions with very complicated answers. I think I'll start with what my university stands for. You're right, creation of knowledge is as important as dissemination. Our vision, what we want to be, is a world-class university. What we want to do, or our mission, is to deliver the highest quality of teaching, to undertake world-class research. But there's a third dimension to our mission that we think sets us apart. We want to use our academic endeavour to make a difference to society. We want to contribute to the economic, cultural, well-being, development of those regions around the world where we have our campuses. Now, when you come back to research and you translate it, what that really means is we are very interested in what is called translational research.
Okay.
That is identifying what humankind, we've talked about the world being flat and medicine being global, what we need, what is the problem that society faces, and how, using our expertise, can we address that. So we're very keen on, from the test tube to the patient. So we work very much at that interface. Now, Newcastle has a world-class reputation in 10 or 11 areas of medical research. Liver disease, dementia, aging and health of the elderly, cancer biology, particularly leukemias. We also are very good at sort of the niche of what you might consider rare diseases. But there's a lot of people who suffer from rare diseases, and it's not just the common. So coming back to our research strategy here, I mean, obviously you need to build a platform. I've talked about modest sustainable growth. You have to get a platform, and that's done by introducing and establishing your undergraduate programs, recruiting your staff. The next phase of our development is to implement our research strategy. And that research strategy comes back to this societal gain. What are the needs that we can address in a research agenda here in Malaysia? And it comes back to something I think we touched on before. It is very surprising that if one looks at the patterns of disease prevalence now in Malaysia, they are becoming, dare I say it, rather Western.
Yes.
As our standard of living in Malaysia goes up and our diets change and we take on a more sedentary lifestyle, we're seeing the rise of diabetes, the non-communicable diseases. And that is an area where Newcastle has strengths. Our strategy is built on partnerships, which we would like to forge here in Malaysia, and also leverage on our strengths at home. We would be foolish to suggest that we could establish one of our world-class research institutes here in Malaysia overnight. It's all about resource.
Yes.
It's about the skilled human resource, and it's about the capital investment you need to make. So to put in a modern human genetics department with all the gene machines, or stem cell or cloning, that's a way off. But what we can do is the world is flat, and we can link back to our institutes at home. So what we're looking at now is to start off with sort of what we call public health epidemiology, things that can be done at a computer in the community, dealing with patients, and sort of liver disease, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, other GI diseases. These are things that we are well experienced in. So these are the subjects we're going to focus on.
Mm-hmm. For Malaysia, I remember going to the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, and they were telling me studies that span over 50 to 100 years, the kind of data that they have accumulated about public health. And the moment they push that to the politicians and to the city council, they will develop a part of Stockholm to be centering around life sciences. And that's how much impetus they're putting into research into public health and linking back to what they have. So, like you said, we need platform. That might be a very long road for Malaysia to go there. But if we find a niche and we start, at least there's focus. However, the problem is, because I keep talking on this same show about how our students must be more critical, not just looking to be the next batch of workers. You know, researching is a very great area to go in.
You have to embed research into your undergraduate programs. Two ways. One is you must make sure the material the students are being taught is research-led, research-informed, up to date. But the second way is you must engage the students in research inquiry. Now, you realise they are novices, but you have to structure that as part of their education. So in our fourth year of our program, we have what you might call medical electives, but student choice. But what underpins whatever they choose to do in that period, they must undertake a research study. That may be in the form of a clinical audit. And you think, how boring. A Newcastle medical student in the UK, this is a UK student, but it's an example, has just made a discovery that was published in a premier discovery journal last week. And that was through epidemiology. She went through a lot of data with a disease called cystic fibrosis. And she's found that in a large proportion of those patients, there is an association with Aspergillus infection. Now, nobody knew that. She found it by painstakingly correlating data. And that is going to make a difference to cystic fibrosis sufferers in their treatment, which will probably end in prolonging their life. It won't cure the disease, but it will make that. And that was made by a medical student who will graduate next year. But that's just one example. You involve the students, you capture their enthusiasm, you've got to get them in then. So some of them want to go on to research. Not all will. And then you have to structure your program that allows for those that want to develop that to develop it early. So we have what we call an intercalation program. During their medical program, the 5-year standard course, they can stand aside and they can intercalate another year, an extra year, to take a research master's degree. And then they return and finish their professional training. And one of the things is to capture the youngsters young, because medicine the world over has a sort of a professional development ladder that once you're on it, nobody wants to get off. You know, you graduate, you've got to do your house jobs 2 years, you've got to be a medical officer for another 3 years, then you've got to do your specialist training. It's no good getting to 40 years old and saying, oh, I might like to do some research. You've got to capture them young and let them build it into their career path. I could give you many other examples than the ones I've given you. Get the students at the beginning.
I totally agree with you. You have to come to another show because we're running out of time. There you go. The face of Iskandar Malaysia from NUMED, Professor Jordan. I guess if you haven't seen the graduates, but you can see from here, leadership will have its fingerprint and footprint onto the graduates. I think I'm looking forward to interview the first batch of graduates from NUMED. Thanks a lot, Professor Jordan, for making time. I guess because you've been so kind to me, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to say whatever you want to say about the first batch, or maybe you want to congratulate them on that.
Thank you very much. We are immensely proud of their achievement, their hard work in what have been difficult circumstances. There's great fun being the pioneers, but be to the first group of students who have lived through a building site and all the ups and downs of startup. It's made us a very tight-knit group. We are exceptionally proud of their achievements. We look forward to them doing us proud representing NewMed and Newcastle University and what we stand for. And we will never forget them, and we hope they'll never forget us. We have a worldwide alumni association, and we'll take great interest in their future careers.
I'm a well-declared Liverpool fan, but I will look out for this Newcastle entity. Thank you so much, Professor. Terima kasih banyak kepada anda telah menonton, hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri kepada pelbagai platform di Astro Awani ada. Dan insyaAllah kita akan berjumpa lagi dalam episod yang lain. Sekian, selamat malam dan terima kasih. Thank you so much.